Now, joining us on the program to talk about this, the police chief from Santa Rosa, Chief Tom Schwedhelm. And Chief, thanks so much for coming on the program tonight.
My pleasure. Thanks for the invitation.
You bet. So tell us a little bit about this festival and what your officers were doing over the weekend.
So actually, as part of a week-long gang prevention awareness week, and this was the final event, and it was a day-long event in a South Park neighborhood of Santa Rosa. And we were partners in putting this on, as we have been the previous 2 years. And one of the things that's actually been very popular with a lot of the members of that community, we bring out our officer rescue vehicle and our SWAT mobile command vehicle. We also have, we have officers there also demonstrating some of the tools that we use to keep the community safer, and that's exactly what we had. So some kids could come up, talk to the officers in a non-enforcement, non-threatening way, and we actually show them the tools. We really want to demystify some of the tools that our SWAT team uses, again, to help keep the community safe. And so that was occurring, and apparently there were some attendees at the festival that took exception to some of the kids' handling of some of the weapons. And again, the weapons were totally safe. There's no ammunition. The only ammunition was on the firearms that are our officers' personal firearms. But the weapons that were there that the SWAT team uses were totally rendered safe. And we also had a less lethal weapon there that was totally rendered safe. So again, it's just to kind of break down some of those communication barriers, demystify the weapons, and engage in the community in somewhat of for some communities, a non-traditional approach. But that's pretty much what our objective was there.
Well, look, I mean, let's be honest with you, Chief. When you're talking about a high crime neighborhood and you're talking about combating gangs and gang prevention, one of the things that I think is very important is to point out that law enforcement is not, they're not the bad guys. And frankly, if you're talking to kids in a neighborhood where there are a lot of adult gang members or teen gang members, they're getting that message every day that law enforcement is, in fact, the bad guys.
Well, that's what's been interesting. Again, the history of this is the third year, and this festival came after we had a homicide in that neighborhood of an 18-year-old who was mistakenly identified as a rival gang member who was shot and killed in the street. And we did a lot to work with the community to overcome that tragedy. And actually some youth leaders in that community called DIG leaders, they decided to put on this festival. And it's really interesting in talking with some of the representatives from the Community Action Partnership who actually worked in the neighborhood to kind of publicize this. They went door to door to talk it up, and a lot of people said, "Well, it's really not going to be, not going to be safe." And what they were told is, "Oh, no, the police are going to be there. They're going to be partnering with this." And then, this weekend we probably had the estimates that I were told were 300 to 400 people there saying, "We're taking back the park. This is a community event, and we are part of this community."
All right, so as a result of these, pictures being circulated, Santa Rosa City Councilwoman Marcia Vos Dupree says she is, quote, alarmed and devastated. And according to a local news account in the Press Democrat, questioned the judgment shown by police. Have you talked with a councilwoman?
No, I have not.
Has she reached out to your office at all, or has she just made these comments in the paper as far as you know?
As far as I know, it's just I saw those comments in a string of emails circulated amongst some council members and other community members that eventually made it to the city manager's office and ultimately to me.
Okay. So what would you tell the councilwoman or Attila Nagy, I guess, who was the fellow who took these pictures, who said, quote, "No matter how you justify it, no matter how you twist it, it's the promotion of violence."
And I would tell them the same thing that I'm speaking to you and other media outlets that I've spoken with at length today, is that this is a public education campaign. And my interest is, whether some people want to recognize it or not, there are weapons out in the community. And I would much rather have a trained professional police officer explain the safety features and the how to safely handle a weapon than other sources out in the community. I totally respect they have their own opinions. And for me, what's been somewhat concerning is that I've heard some comments saying that it's a black and white thing or a right and wrong issue. I totally respect they have a different opinion of this, but part of what we, as a police department, are responsible for is contributing to the safety of that total community. And I think education is a huge part of that, and that's what our officers are out there doing, making connections with that community and explaining some of the tools that we use to keep the community safe.
Interesting. And I'm curious, Chief, It sounds like a couple of people were really responsible for turning this into an issue. Are the critics outnumbered by the supporters of the department and your presence there at the neighborhood festival?
What's really interesting to me, and again, we partnered with this with Community Action Partnership, who actually has a Head Start program actually in that park. And we were out there earlier in the week with a mural, supporting some of the efforts there to reduce some of the graffiti violence there, or graffiti issues there in the park. And what I'm told is that no one from that community, that specific community, has complained about our presence or what we were doing there. All the folks who have expressed concerns don't live in that neighborhood, and so that's the kind of interesting part. Then
Really?
if you look at the local paper, you can pull up the Press Democrat, which published the article and published the paper, and you read the comments commenting on which position do you take. And I don't know the percentage, but far and away there's many more supporters supporting our actions and being very appreciative that we're willing to do a public education out there on a very important topic to the community. But again, I don't have any statistical. These are just folks that found the time to read the article and then comment on it. So it's not scientific, but if you were to read the comments, associated with the article, far and away, people are appreciative of the efforts that the Santa Rosa Police Department and Community Action Partnership did in making this a successful festival.
Well, listen, Chief, we cover crime issues on this program every night, and I think our audience knows as well that, unless you have that partnership between law enforcement and the community, you're never really going to be able to tackle gang violence in neighborhoods. So I applaud you for the outreach. I'm glad that your officers were there, and you know what? I hope that you guys have the same presence there next year.
Well, obviously we take this back as feedback. Okay, so here's some information that we had from this experience. But if we look at that overwhelming, what is our role there? Is to, again, make those connections. And I would venture to guess, and I have not done this, but if I were to talk to those two young men that are pictured there, I think they're going to have a very positive impression, one of the Santa Rosa Police Department, and also be very appreciative of the efforts we went to have that conversation, not as an officer and a juvenile in an enforcement situation. But this was having a conversation. There's connections being made there, and again, for community safety, I think that's key to the overall success.
Absolutely. Hey, Chief, thank you so much for coming on the program tonight. Good talking to you, sir.
I appreciate the invitation. Thank you again.
Thank you, Chief Tom Schwedhelm with the Santa Rosa, California Police Department, joining us here tonight on Cam and Company.